Should you pull for Sid Range's FR Echo? Let's get to his roles. It is a launch attacker, turn manipulator, and dispeller and cleanser. Quite a lot of things that he does. His notable attacks: Rohingya Storm, his skill 1. It is 2 split HP attacks. It grants Cavalry Commander for 8 turns. What that does is it gives him his initial follow-up Impact Strike, but we'll get to what Impact Strike does later. His skill 1 also launches. Cavalry Rush, his skill 2. It is 2 HP attacks. It moves a selected ally's turn after his own, and it also launches. Seraphic Ray, in my opinion, one of his best moves. His EX, it is 4 HP attacks with 1 50% splash. It is guaranteed hit. It cleanses all party debuffs, dispels all enemy buffs, it delays all enemies by 1 turn, and it launches. I'm gonna let that sink in for a second. Heavenly Fist, his LD, it is 4 HP attacks with 1 HP attack by 100% of his own current Brave. It moves the entire party's turns after his own, it grants 1 free ability use, and it grants his buff, I too will challenge my fate for 9 turns. What that buff does, it gives him an HP cap up of 10%, it gives the party an HP cap up of 10%, and it gives the entire party an extra 20% HP cap up during launch. It upgrades his follow-up attack Impact Strike to Impact Strike Plus, and it also upgrades his HP attack to HP attack Heavenly Fist. Oh, it also launches. Go figure. Heavenly Fist, his LD variant of his HP attack. It is 1 HP attack with 50% splash. It delays all enemies by 1 turn, and it is also instant turn rate. Impact Strike, his follow-up. It is a total of 3 HP attacks, and it all ignores defense. Raging Rebellion, his FR. It moves the entire party's turns after his own, and it also launches. Opposing Destiny, his BT effect. It is 6 total turns, and it upgrades his Impact Strike follow-up to Seraphic Charge. Seraphic Charge, his BT follow-up, it is a total of 7 HP attacks, and it also ignores defense. His force conditions: you get a first 20% whenever anyone is launched. You get another 20% per attack during launch. The max amount of people that can follow up Sid Reigns is 2 people, so that's a maximum of 40%. You get a final 10% whenever Sid Reigns is the one launching an enemy. Sid Reigns pros. Now, it might not look like a lot, but trust me, these particular pros are very, very strong. His launch damage output is utterly frightening. If you can see how many HP attacks that Sid Reigns just inflicted on the enemy with his launch attack alone, is freaking crazy, yo. Not only does he do a massive amount of damage with his follow-up, but you're also ignoring defense with it, and you're getting a bunch of HP cap-ups while you're doing the launch attack. And I believe if you add it up in total, it is a 40% HP cap-up for Sid Reigns whenever he launches. That's a lot. Another great thing about Sid Reigns is his turn manipulation, both for the party and the enemy, is really good. While it's not like the most consistent thing in the world, you're still able to delay the enemy if you need to with his EX and his HP attack. And for the party, you're able to manipulate the party's turns to move after you with his skill 2, with his LD, and with his FR. So you have a lot of options if you need to bring someone forward and you don't want the enemy to take turns. It also allows for a bit of an abuse of how his turn manipulation works. If you have another turn manipulator in your team, for example, Rem or Afmao, the Sid Mao combo, it's alive again because of Sid Reigns' recent rework. It's just that much stronger of a duo now. And finally, on top of everything else he does, the fact that he can also cleanse and dispel with his EX. I've said again that his EX is one of his best moves, and in my opinion, one of the best EXs in the entire game because of how much utility it provides you. And the great thing is he doesn't even need to cleanse and dispel. He's an attacker. He's not really meant to do stuff like that, but he can. And given that the EX also charges relatively fast, you're gonna have a lot of opportunity to use it. More often than not, the enemy's not gonna have buffs and you are not gonna have any debuffs. Now with that out of the way, let's get to his cons. I'll be honest, there are a number of them. As much as I love Sid Reigns, he is far from being a perfect character. His BT effect is way too short. Why does it last 6 turns? There is no reason for it to last that short. I don't care how strong his BT follow-up is. If you can have someone like DFFOO who also has a monstrous follow-up to have 8 turns, and Aranea who's coming afterwards who works very, very similarly to Sid Reigns, and you give her 10 turns for her BT effect? Why does Sid Reigns have 6? What's the point? Because it lasts that short, it's very hard to set up a proper force time with him, because ideally if you want to burst phase with Sid Reigns, which is very strong by the way, you're gonna have to be a little wonky with how you set things up. Because his BT attack doesn't launch, you're essentially wasting a BT turn whenever you're trying to set up Sid Reigns. I think that's just very messy, and I think it's a very devastating con which really has no reason to be there. I think it's an unnecessary restriction on Sid Reigns as a unit. I really do not think he would break the game if his BT effect had 8 turns instead of 6. Sid Reigns is also a very specific character in how he wants to work. He is absolutely not a plug-and-play character. You can't just put him in any team and expect him to do work. If Sid Reigns is in your party, you need to build around him. This is really not up for debate. You'll want someone who can complement on his launches. You want someone who can enable the party to consistently move after Sid Reigns. And despite, you know, he can turn manipulate, it doesn't mean he can do that 24/7. And given that his kit and his entire FR rely on launching the enemy again and again and again, Sid Reigns can only launch on his team. He cannot enable other party members to launch along with him. And going on with his FR, it can be easy. His FR conditions can be easy if you have the right people to go along with Sid Reigns. But if you have no one else in the party who can abuse launch, his FR is going to be difficult for you to fulfill. Sid Reigns' FR is a base. If you don't have anyone else in the party who can consistently launch like Sid Reigns can, other echoes in the team might suffer because of it. The way you're getting the max amount of percentage is if you launch. This is why I say that Sid Reigns can't fit with every team. You have to build around him. But also on the case of just launching in general, Sid Reigns is heavily nerfed if the enemy is launch immune or if launch damage is significantly reduced, which is very far and few between. You barely see any fights that have that anymore, but regardless, once in a blue moon, those fights can show up, and in those particular fights, Sid Reigns becomes close to useless in my opinion. Now, don't let the huge amount of cons scare you away that Sid Reigns is a bad character. He's still a good character. There's just a time and a place in which he works best, and there's also a time and a place where he doesn't work best. To help make him a better unit, if you have units that can turn manipulate, like Afmao, that can also give him more chances to move and to utilize his follow-up, or you can bring along people who can enable launch along with Sid Reigns. For example, if you have Selfie, who is one of Sid Reigns' best friends in the game, I highly recommend using her with him if you have her. My should you pull rating for Sid Reigns is going to be an A-. He's a very volatile character to where his strengths and pros are very, very good, but also his cons are way too much and way too restricting for me to recommend him as a top tier unit. Now, he can still work very well, but he won't work for everyone, and if you're a new player and you don't have a whole lot of people to complement Sid Reigns' game mechanics, he might not be that good for you. So that's my should you pull rating. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!